to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, share, or follow at Keys to the City. Or check out clovercrestmedia.com for our podcast and many more podcasts at clovercrestmedia.com. So we've been talking, and we're going to be joined with D. Joseph McGuire later on in the week to talk. Well, there's been a week of baseball. The biggest surprise so far, what's going on with the New York Yankees and runners in scoring position again, and their pitching staff is a bit concerning. So we can talk all about that later in the week. Plus, we're going to be having Ted, our NBA predictions, as the NBA playoffs officially start tonight with the play-in games. So we'll see who's going to be the 7 and 8 seeds in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference. But we'll have all of that at the end of the week. But this time, today, let's start off with today. Let's go on with this and how this entire NFL offseason has, well, changed the landscape for the future of what this NFL is going to look like. And we talked about it. The quarterbacks that have been on the move, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers staying put, Tom Brady coming back, Carson Wentz on the move. You know the names that have been moving left and right. But also there's another position that's been getting moved around. And it's become maybe to some the more popular positions in all football, especially on offense. And it's the wide receivers. You look at the names. Robert Woods, gone, traded. Allen Robinson, signed to a new team. OBJ looks like he could be going to a new team. Devontae Adams pulling off a stunner, shocking decision to move from Green Bay, going back to his college teammate, Derek Carr, and the Las Vegas Raiders, and plus probably the biggest surprising move of this entire offseason, Ted, was the move by the Kansas City Chiefs and Tyreek Hill becoming now a Miami Dolphin. So what am I talking about? Why am I getting into this and spewing? Ted's probably like, what the hell's going on? Well, there's a couple of receivers, this league, and I always like to relate it to fantasy football because when we always think about fantasy football, there's not many great running backs to pick from in fantasy football. If you know, Ted, you know what I'm talking about. But when you look at fantasy football, you could get receivers. Now, you could wait until the third or fourth round because that's how deep we have in this league some stout talents at the receiver position. Well, there's 4 guys right now that are in that class of, well, let's be honest, the Devontae Adams class, not Devontae Adams class, but getting there. Superstardom where these guys are young, these guys are explosive, they're game changers, and there's some of the most important players on these teams. And I'm talking about the 4 guys. Well, what are you talking about? What 4 guys are we talking about? So these 4 guys, these are some of the big receivers that look like they could be getting contracts coming soon. And I just look at these 4 and I say, well, these are just 4 of the bright young stars in this league. So, Ted, you look at these 4, and this is like almost a 2-part question. 4 of these guys will get paid. But to who will they get?
Well, they're all going to get paid. Yeah, they're all going to get paid.
They'll get paid, but is it going to be with their current team, or will they get moved and get the big contracts like Devontae Adams wanted, like also Tyreek Hill wanted, and guys like even Christian Kirk who changed the whole, foundation of the receiver position.
You're going to show me the 4 picture? You're going to show me?
I already did. You looked. Did you already forget? This man's already forgot. So here's the 4. I tell you. Deebo Samuel to the left, A.J. Brown to the right, DK Metcalf to the left, and scary Terry McLaurin down on the right corner.
Keep him up for a second. Keep him up for a second. You don't need to see my pretty face. So here's what I would say about this.
At least somebody said
I believe that both guys on the top will get paid, and they will get paid from the teams that are currently with the jerseys on in that thing. I believe the 2 guys this year will play this year out with their current teams, but will not be on their teams going forward next season. That's my state. So if you want to take the picture off now.
Oh, now he wants the picture.
Well, I'm
so generous. I'm just kidding.
Well, and here's the thing. I think eventually A.J. Brown will get paid. I don't think he's going to get paid the money. I mean, listen, just because some guy gets paid doesn't mean you're going to beat him out and the next guy's going to get paid higher and higher. You know what I mean? It's just like When's it stop? Like, sorry, AJ Brown, you're not getting Devontae Adams, you're not getting Tyreek Hill. You got to stay on the field too. So here's the biggest thing with all four of these guys, except for DK Metcalf. They've all had some type of little injury concern. Terry McLaurin, nothing big, but he's had some injuries. He's missed games. Deebo Samuel, I love him as a player. I know you do personally. You find him one of the most exhilarating players that they have in the league. He can do so much. What concerns me as a football fan is he plays the running back position too. And we know how the running backs take a beating. And, your receiver running the ball as much as the 49ers use him, guys are taking you out at the knees. And now they're getting running starts. And, as a receiver, you're much more protected. Well, you can go across the middle. You don't have to worry about a guy taking you out. And that's what I think the 49ers fear is, how much do I pay a guy that has missed time? He's similar to his teammate in George Kittle, where they played the game of football like they did in the 80s and 90s and 70s, where they put their bodies through the walls. There's no running out of bounds. There's no sliding early. They play football like the game was originally scheduled to be played. They play football the way we like to play football, the way we would play football. But with that being said, when you do so, you take extra punishment. So that's the punishment. So that's the question you have with Deebo Samuel is how much. It's will he get paid? It's how much will he get paid? And does his value get lost a little bit because of him being a running back and not so much a dominant receiver? Can they play that game? You know how that goes. Something that Jimmy Graham was fighting, where he was playing tight end, but he wanted to get paid like a receiver. I think DK Metcalf eventually will get moved, if not moved during the draft. I just think, Seattle Seahawks keep saying, we don't want to move him.
Here's let me come in. Well, let me say this about these four. And you look at the GM of the Titans has already come out, John Robinson, GM of the Titans, come out and said, we're going to get A.J. Brown signed. There's no worry about that for Titans fans. So he will get paid. Deebo Samuel, the main part about these four players, and we hear this word a lot tossed around in the NFL.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't put any of these guys at elite level.
Listen, I'm not talking about any of them.
Well, I know that, but when you're talking about pay scale, they're not at the level that you were talking about.
So what I was saying is everybody likes to use this word a lot in the NFL. Tossed around. It's a big word. It's one of the more important words in all the NFL. The word is culture. How can you build a culture when you want to keep moving on from your core players? Like, let's be honest. These four guys are building blocks. They're core players, cornerstones of these franchises. A.J. Brown, I know Derrick Henry's the man in Tennessee, but A.J. Brown is just as valuable because you have to pass the ball in this game, and you have to have a legit number one receiver to survive in this league. They have that in A.J. Brown. Deebo Samuel, drafted a homegrown drafted player, second round, talented out of college, but to me, he's the most valuable of the four just because of what he brings to that offense, and we know what kind of offense they love to run in San Fran. And to use him as a running back, use him as a receiver, to see who he is and who he was in college, I know he's dealt with injuries, but back to all of that. The Seattle Seahawks are the most intriguing team of these four because, well, they just traded their franchise quarterback, Russell Wilson. So, and Bobby Wagner, who they just released. So those are two cornerstones, two pillars that were part of the Seattle Seahawks franchise for the past 10 years. Moved on from them. How are you supposed to build culture and character when you can't even decide to keep your core players? And these are all four core players. Terry McLaurin is a core player, is a cornerstone for the Washington Commanders.
That's why I think the Washington
Commanders right now, it looks like one of the major cornerstone going forward, the building block for the Seattle Seahawks, Deebo and A.J. Brown. So how can you speak about culture and talking about and this identity when you want to move on from players? I know
what culture does DK Metcalf bring to the Seattle Seahawks? You're in a full rebuild mode, bro. If the Jets come calling at number 10 and say, we're going to give you the number 10 pick in the first round and a fourth round pick for DK Metcalf, Seattle, you should take it.
I do understand.
What value does DK Metcalf have if he's playing with Drew Lock as a quarterback or Baker Mayfield?
Seattle,
where's the value he gets?
Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question for you.
I'm not asking you figure. I'm just asking out loud. What value
does me? I'm not here.
We've seen this. Good receivers on shitty teams with bad quarterbacks can't make a difference. Bad receivers can be really good when they're put around great quarterbacks. DK Metcalf, I understand. Zach Wilson doesn't scream Hall of Famer, doesn't scream Pro Bowler. But guess what? You have a young, rising quarterback with other pieces around him. Elijah Moore, you got Corey Davis. You could be the front center. You can go to New York. You can get paid under a rookie deal. You can make the Jets better. If you're in Seattle, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. You do not have Russell Wilson throwing you the ball. And if I'm Seattle, I'm in full rebuild mode. I can have the 9th pick, the 10th pick, an extra 4th round. You need picks. You need to rebuild the culture and the chemistry that you once had, like you started when you were talking about. The guys that you had with Richard Sherman and Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson and Cam Chancellor, these are all guys you drafted. These are all front and center legends for your franchise. That's what made you great. We've talked about this. You sent me something last night, and this is the point of it. You sent me the Colts. And they're drafting from like 1994 to like 2002. And they hit on Marshall Faulk and Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning and Dallas Clark and Edgerrin James and Tariq Glenn, the offensive tackle. And that's what made them so great. They hit on great draft picks. We've knocked the Giants, but what picks have they hit on? They've been complete failures. So if I'm Seattle and I'm like, okay, I got DK Metcalf. I understand he's a superstar. Where is Seattle going this year with DK Metcalf? Does he make them a better team? No. Terry McLaurin has value. A.J. Brown opens up.
I get that, but then when you're in
you can't stick 8 in the box. You have to account for A.J. Brown. And then you said it right.
Then if you're
probably
Seattle,
the most important player for San Francisco.
If you're Seattle, then you're put in a position like the Atlanta Falcons where you have no playmakers on your team with the exception of Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson. But though Cordell Patterson's there for a couple more years. My point is that they're in a situation where they need help all around. Seattle is a team that needs help all around. You got to also, as future players coming into the league, you see these big time stars, these core players, these cornerstones for your franchises. I know sometimes you have to do what's best for business, but still, to get that business rolling, don't you have to have some pieces to work with to make it start going, Ted? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, you look at those, hold on. These 4 players, just look at these 4 players. It looks like A.J. Brown is the intriguing ones of this. A.J. Brown looks like he's going to be a tight end, so I just put him up, but he hasn't been signed yet. The intriguing ones of these 4, I haven't heard much from Terry McLaurin because we don't know what's going to happen with him. I assume they will sign him. Deebo Samuel, with his little fiasco going on with his Instagram, removing of his pictures and all that stuff. And you know how that's a big deal nowadays.
Who cares? At the end of the day, what you going to do? Remove your Instagram. Kyler Murray, remove it. Who cares? You're still going to be playing for the Cardinals this year. So shut up. Shut up and stop being a baby. Oh, I want my money. Yeah, guess what? Lamar, here's what I would say to Kyler Murray. Shut up. Lamar, guess what? If he took a contract a year or 2 ago, he'd be getting paid a lot less. By him waiting, watching Deshaun Watson get paid, watching Josh Allen get paid, watching this guy get paid, his value in stock only goes up. It's like the market. You bought your house then, but imagine you bought your house now. If you got paid then, imagine what the value is now. Kyler Murray, wait another year. Wait till Lamar gets paid. Then you can be like, I want Lamar's money. You think about it, use it in the receiver core, right? Everyone wanted to get to the Julio number. That was kind of the number, right? You want to get to that. You wanted to get to the $20 million mark. All right. Well, Devontae wanted to get more. And then Tyreek Hill wants to get, none of these guys are going to get $30 million a year or $25 million a year, but they're definitely worth $20 million. I mean, if I had to rank the 4 of them, personally, Debo's 1 for me, A.J. Brown 2, I think DK 3, and Terry McLaurin 4. But, I mean, you're splitting hairs. Terry McLaurin's a really good receiver. I'd love to see him with a really good quarterback. Let's see how good he does this year.
Since coming into the league, he averaged 900, 1,100, and just had 1050 last year. So he averages from 900 to 1,100 yards, and that's not with a quarterback. That's with Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick, guys like that. I know I'm not saying Carson Wentz is going to take that elite step and make him, but it seems like it'd be an improvement for anything that they've had right now. So Terry McLaurin is another guy that, nobody talks about him, but is a very, very, very talented receiver and one of the fine young talents in this game.
But do you look at him as a number 1? That's my thing. I don't look at him as a number 1. He is a number 1. But what is the number 1?
What is the description of before we get into our next point, what is the description of a number 1 receiver? Are any of these number 1 receivers then? I think all four of
See,
these
here's
guys
the
are
thing.
number one receivers.
Do you look at Debo as a receiver or as a utility player?
I think of him as as he likes to call himself, a wide back, a wide receiver / running back, a unicorn, a guy that can do it all offensively in the return game. He's the most valuable of the four to me, just because of what he brings to that team, that attitude, the reflection. They just
just look at the playoff game against Dallas. When he was on the field, he was the best player on the field.
Even the game against Green Bay, he didn't have but just his impact overall when he plays. Even in the NFC Championship game, had a huge touchdown for them. He's just he's their guy, and you have to keep that. AJ Brown, all these guys are so valuable, and they are true number ones. Because when I think of a number one, you come into the league, you take the league by storm, and you dominate, and you take control of what. Like AJ Brown has come into the league, yes, has dealt with injuries, but has really elevated his game into that next level, that Justin Jefferson type level, that Jamar Chase right there, where he's right. If he stays healthy and him and Tannehill could connect like they have been, that's a scary duo. Debo, I know he's dealt with the injuries, but we just saw him come off of one of the finest seasons all around for an offensive player in NFL history. So I expect him to continue that pace, but I know he has those lingering issues with health. Terry's the same way. They're all guys that come in and 900, 1,000, 1,100 yards. Like, that's what you want. And these guys are so young. That's what I want from a number one. So I don't know what people's description of a number one, but to me, these four have taken the league by storm since coming into this NFL. And I would describe them as number ones. That's just me.
Well, that's why they have a good trade value. But like I said, I think DK eventually gets moved because if I'm Seattle, why am I paying him? Okay, so you're going to pay DK, right? But I don't have a quarterback. I have no offensive line. I don't have a defense. Why would I pay a receiver? Why am I going to pay a receiver when I have to build the rest of the team up? It doesn't make sense. It's like building from the outside in. It doesn't make sense. That's not how you build a franchise. If you want to hold on to him, and maybe trade him during the trade deadline, maybe someone who needs a big-time receiver. But if I'm the Packers, I'm the Chiefs, I'm the Jets, I go make a move for him.
The reason why also
I go make a move for a guy who can DK Metcalf with Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf with Mahomes, Zach Wilson. What do we need to put around young talent? Skilled players, big time, strong receiver. Zach Wilson, throw the ball up to DK Metcalf. Have Corey Davis run the inner routes, and you also have Elijah Moore, who you drafted last year in the second round from Ole Miss, another Ole Miss guy. So you set him up with potential, because I know we're going to get into the draft stuff. And if I'm the Jets at number 10, if I'm taking taking the defensive back from Cincinnati, Gardner, then I'm taking a receiver at number 10. They don't need offensive line help. They got their offensive line is fine.
My last
receiver, and at number 10, I mean, here, listen, you get better value with the young receiver, cheap price. But you know what? Do you know if Drake London or Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson is going to be the billing? You know what DK Metcalf brings to the NFL right off the bat if you sign him as a New York Jet. And his value and money goes up being in the New York instead of in Seattle.
My last part.
Are you done?
I was waiting for you. Don't know when you're.
I know. I know. I spoke so much.
You spoke.
Go on to the next subject and stop beating up the damn.
I wanted to make a point.
Yo, you're talking about what point do you need? You already hit the point. Culture, players.
Are you getting all jumpy today?
Listen,
did you not get enough sleep last night?
What point have you not missed? What point have you not?
Did you not get?
What point have we not covered in this 19
My
minutes?
last part, what I was going to say, is
trade them all.
How Debo is so valuable out of these four. People are starting to try to replicate what Debo Samuel is. And we always say, who's going to be the next Debo Samuel? Because the way he has transitioned his game to being a wide receiver, but also being just as valuable and impactful in the backfield as a running back. You're starting to hear guys like that. Like, you're just hearing it. Oh, we want to replicate Patrick Mahomes. Well, who wants to replicate the next Debo Samuel? I mean, just guys like that. We don't see a lot of guys like this in the past. I mean, we've seen a Parsi.
Well, because most guys or receivers are not built like him. He's built like a running back. He's 6'1", but he's like 220 pounds. He's solid. You know, you can put Tyreek Hill in the backfield like the Chiefs have, but he's small, right? And you use him on jet sweeps. The Giants did a little bit with Beckham. The Giants want to do a little bit with Kadarius Toney, but most of these receivers, you can't just put in the backfield. Also, their value at receiver is so much higher. You don't want to risk them running a sweep and getting a linebacker scraping across the middle and hitting him. You don't want that. They could get taken out with the knees. Something happens. Their value, like you spoke about, all four of them, holds so much precedent on their teams. Terry McLaurin is the best player, if not the best offensive player that the Redskins have. Oh, excuse me, the Commanders.
No, he's their best offensive. He's their best.
DK Metcalf now is the best offensive player Seattle has. AJ Brown, other than Derrick Henry, has as much value, if not more, because his value on the outside. You can't put 8 in the box. You have to account for AJ Brown. You have to have a safety. So that makes Derrick Henry's ability to run that much stronger. We saw the difference when AJ Brown is in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup.
Yep.
And then Deebo Samuel, he's Mr. All Everything. He's that high school kid where he comes in, he plays quarterback, running back, receiver. You find
it sounds like somebody I know.
Yeah, not you.
It's not me. I was talking about you.
Yeah, don't worry about me.
I'm giving you a compliment.
Yeah, don't worry about me. I'll get a duck at the end of it.
Just get a wooden mallard. It's all good.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support, and see you next year. Get the hell out of here.
Get the hell out of here.
Get the hell out of here. No, but we'll see. This offseason has given us ups and downs, twists and turns, made our heads go nuts because it's just the movement, the stars that have been on the move this entire offseason. Let's just say that could be far from over. But Ted was also just bringing up about receivers. We're talking about quarterbacks too with this offseason. Well, let's get into, we started last week, picks 1 through 8, about their NFL draft. So today, we got picks 9 through 17. And we see what 1 through 8 kind of to me is the uncertainty. We know the positions that could be getting drafted. We just don't know the names. To me, this is the part of the draft where do we get the trades galore? We've already saw the Saints and the Eagles already had a little intriguing, kind of confusing trade from a Saints standpoint. Good for the Eagles getting another draft pick for next year. But this is a trade area for these teams that we could be seeing movement. Maybe DK Metcalf tech gets traded in this part of group of picks. Maybe the Jets try to trade back. Maybe the Giants from 7 are in this group now. Do we see the receivers, Ted? Do we see the quarterbacks move? Maybe like a Carolina at 6. We don't know what Carolina's going to do at 6. I believe that's the team that is going to be most intriguing when it comes to the quarterbacks, because if they take a Pickett or a Willis, then it becomes the teams that go desperation mode and they have to trade up. They're going to do anything they can to get one of these quarterbacks. But do you see in this group of teams where you got them at the bottom, you got the Seahawks, you got the Jets, Commanders, and you got the Vikings. Texans got their second pick now. We don't know what they're going to do. Ravens, Eagles, Saints, and then the Chargers finish out this round. So, Ted, do you see a lot of trades happening? And do you see, if it is it going to be for the receivers, or is it going to be for the quarterbacks too?
I think it'll be for both. But I think if you go back and look at our mock draft, we posted it later last week. It's on Instagram. It's on Facebook. It's on a bunch of stuff. We had Cody Pickett as the first quarterback coming off, and we had him at 6 at Carolina, right?
What is it, Devil? Hold on.
So it's small, but here's the thing. We if we're doing it the way we did it, okay, at 9, we had Derek Stingley going to LSU. We had Drake London, as I said, receiver for the Jets, Olave. That could be a big move considering if Terry McLaurin doesn't get signed, they're going to need a court receiver. We went McDuffie because, Stingley wasn't there, and I think the Vikings need secondary help. They re-signed Patrick Peterson on a 1-year deal, but he's still getting older. Kyle Hamilton, listen, if you're the Texans, you get Evan Neal, you get a solid left tackle, and you get an impactful safety. You're an A+ in the first round. That's how you rebuild your culture. We talked about that. Ravens, they need pass rushing up. I think Jermaine Johnson, if he's not, listen, and all this is not mine. This was me and Trev. We did this together. We talked this over. But Trev, with that being said, I think if you're looking at the draft, you go, all right, Seattle's at 9, right? Who's there at 9? Now, if Cody Pickett went 6, does Seattle?
Cody Pickett?
Cody Pickett goes 6.
Kenny.
Cody, Kenny.
No, don't mess up names, Ted. We don't like people messing up names.
Okay, I can't wait. Someone will bash me. Go, what are you, an idiot? What's the matter? You don't know football? Listen, it happens. I speak too fast. My brain doesn't catch up to my mouth. Kenny Pickett goes 6, right? So here's where you and me I think are on the same thing. there's really two quarterbacks, okay, they could be day one starters possibly if they choose to. But we know that Kenny Pickett has at least the most experience. Malik Willis brings the most talent. Does Seattle go get Malik Willis and he become the quarterback of the future? Or do one of the tackles fall, right? Do one of the tackles fall to them, like Neal or the kid from NC State, maybe Cross? Do they need – Dwayne Brown was not re-signed, so do they add offensive line help and build from inside out? Or or is that a spot where you're going, all right, what does Seattle do? I think that's the bigger question. What does Seattle do? And, we saw some things. I'm thinking like, hey, listen, if Kenny Pickett goes 6, the Giants pick at 7, Atlanta pick at 8, do teams worry that Seattle's going to take Malik Willis and jump up? Do they trade up to jump Seattle? That'll be a big question. I think 10, you're looking at 10. What do we got 10? Who's at 10, right? 10 is the Jets. I think the Jets is really easy. It's the receiver. It's the best receiver on the board. It's either Garrett Wilson or Drake London if the Jets have not traded.
Well, I feel like
and here's the thing. This is the Jets like to make moves. They like to be the back page. Do they make a splash there at 10? Do they trade back and get a big time receiver that someone doesn't want to pay for? Do they trade the pick? What happens at 10? And if not, do they take the best available receiver? Because the way we look at the draft is Gardner's going 4. He's the number 1 cornerback. Put him right there. He's a staple to that secondary. And then you get another receiver, a star receiver like a Garrett Wilson, like a Drake London.
To me, of these picks, this is where I see a team like the Saints get really intriguing because of.
But I see great value here too. A lot of great value.
I feel like after 1 through 8, like let's be honest, this is not a class where there's a lot of B+ B to A players in this league. Now I'm not saying. Hold on. Now I'm not saying that they can't elevate their game to that superstar talent. I'm not saying that, but there's not a guy in this class that you come off like how Jadeveon Clowney was hugely scouted, and when he came out, Andrew Luck, even the quarterback class is not great. This is a meat and potatoes draft, offensive line, defensive line, but there's no superstars. Not a Myles Garrett was like Hutchinson. We all thought he was going to be the number 1 pick. Now we're hearing rumors that could be Trayvon Walker. That could be the eventual number 1 pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this is not a great draft from a standpoint of having that superstar talent come out right off the bat. Now they can elevate their game to that. I'm not saying that they won't, but when you look at this draft, when you get by 1 through 8, this is where it becomes, okay, now you're going to start seeing teams maybe getting intriguing with the receivers because, let's be honest, 1 through 8, maybe we don't see any receivers coming out.
But this is where you could see 4 receivers going in these 8 picks.
Maybe you also don't see any of the quarterbacks going out of the first 8 picks. So this is where you get a team like the Saints or a team like Seattle or the Jets,
Pittsburgh,
where they want to trade out. That's what I'm saying. Seattle teams that not trading up but want to trade out. Pittsburgh is a team that could come into this. We don't know because we know that they are looking for that quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky is not the guy for the future, it seems like. So where does the Pittsburgh Steelers come into play? Where do the Kansas City Chiefs? Like we haven't talked about picks 17 through.
I was just going to say that the Packers
18 through 26.
Hold
on, we didn't talk about 18 through 25, and we haven't talked about the back end of the draft, 26 to 32. We haven't talked about those. But we can't take out the Kansas City Chiefs, the Green Bay Packers, 2 teams that have 2 first-round picks currently right now in this draft. So 2 teams that, if you haven't noticed, both lost 2 huge weapons on their offense. So if you can trade up, this is where maybe a team like Seattle, who maybe wants to pick up more picks if their guy's not there, maybe the Jets. I know teams are saying, oh, well, the Jets looking like a receiver. Maybe they trade back and just add more to the list of draft picks that they have. You just look at this. This is where I always say first 8, you feel like you get your guys. The guys that maybe you get that surprise out of the 8, but for the most part, 1 through 8 looks like those are the main 8 core guys in this draft. And then when you get out of the top 10, it's when it starts getting intriguing. You start seeing trades. People start moving up. People start trading back. Big names get moved. Maybe DK Metcalf is one of those guys in this. Like, this is where the draft, to me, can get a whole
like last year. Eagles jumped the Giants with Dallas to go get Devontae Smith. So
yes,
this is where you could see a run of receivers in these picks. And like you said, Trev, you got the Jets looking at a receiver. You got the Redskins. The Commanders. It's going to be so hard, but I still get it screwed
Just
up.
go with the football team. That was under too old, though.
Yeah, whatever. They do what they got to do. So you got Washington, which we're looking at a receiver, okay? I'm just looking at – give me 1 second. So Minnesota, no, they're not looking. I don't think they would, but would the Texans, depending on who's there, would they take a receiver? All right.
Let me ask you this question.
Baltimore is a weird thing. I think they go defense. I think they need more pass rushing. But, the thing that you and me have kind of talked about the past years with Lamar is, do we get him another number one receiver?
Let me ask you this.
Hold on 1 second. I'll finish up with this real quick. You said it before. The Saints, even though they already made a trade, do they move up to even get someone else? The Eagles, do they make a trade for a receiver? They want to put as much talent.
Let me ask you this.
And here's the other thing. We haven't talked about it, but the 17th pick is the Chargers. You got an older Keenan Allen, who's at the back end of his career. You got a younger Mike Williams, who they just re-signed. Do they go get another weapon like a Jameson Williams, who, yes, he won't be there for the beginning of the season, but imagine getting that guy running bombs with Justin Herbert throwing to him. That would really open up that offense.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Out of these teams, out of 9 through 17, teams that are in this,
yep.
What's a team that needs to make a move? What's a team that out of these teams, when you look at these, Baltimore was on the verge of being a playoff team, the number 1 seed at one point. The Eagles were a playoff team. The Saints were on the cusp of being a playoff team. The Chargers. So these are the teams right now that even Washington. I know Washington had a bad year last year, but this is a team that feels like they're a couple pieces away from a playoff.
Yeah.
In the Vikings, Texans got it because of the Browns. But you look at these teams. Which is the team that is, you feel, maybe a move or two away?
Well, I don't think here's the thing. I don't think any of those
out of these teams.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think any of the teams that are here need to make a move. I just think it's of where do you look at your team? I think move team would be Chiefs and Packers coming up to get one of these 3 or 4 receivers. And I think we were agreement on the top 4 is Garrett Wilson, Olave, Drake London, and Jameson Williams. And Jameson Williams, if he didn't tear his ACL, would easily be the number 1 receiver in this class and would easily be in the top 10. But because of the ACL injury, there's got to be a little concern. But he's got that breakaway speed, game-changing speed like a Tyreek Hill. The Jets need receiver help. They want to put as much talent around this young quarterback, and we've seen that. It works. Put as much talent around Josh Allen and see. Here's the thing with the Ravens. I'll speak about the Ravens quick. Is we had Jermaine Johnson going there. He might not be there. He might be. Listen, he might go to the Giants at number 7. That's where his value is. He could be anywhere from 5 to 15 or 20, depending on how you grade your prospects. But we've always talked about Lamar Jackson, his ability to run, his receiving, but they don't have a number 1. Marquise Brown is not a number 1. He's a special teams. He could be like a Debo. Let's put him in the backfield. Let's leave him aside. Rashad Bateman missed most of the beginning of the season, really turned it up at the late in the end of the season. Is he really a number 1 or is he closer to a number 2? So do they put another young receiver and say, okay, we got a Garrett Wilson, we got a Rashad Bateman, we got our tight end who's one of the best in the league, and we got Marquise Brown. So now we got all the skill, and we got our running backs coming back. All right, so we got Lamar. Or do they go pass rusher? So that's a big question. The Saints, they need offensive line help, but do they put another big time receiver around for Jameis Winston to succeed? I think the biggest thing to move is the Packers Chiefs. Do one of those 2 teams who both have multiple first round picks, come into this position? Because we talked about this in the first 10, Trev, or first 8 picks. Once one guy goes, the domino effect that it has on everyone else. So if the Jets go receiver, boom, at 10, right? And then Washington goes 11, who's coming to get the next 2? That is the question, because there'll be a lot of hungry teams for the next 2 receivers. I mean, yes, I know there's Treylon Burks. I think there'll be at least 6 receivers taken in this first round, like there seems to be every year. But we've seen this. There's a run. And what is the discrepancy between Treylon Burks from Arkansas or Dotson from Penn State compared to Olave and Garrett Wilson and Drake London? Where is your value? Where do they, is it a 1, a 2, and a 3? How do you value these guys? And that's where I think most of these moves. But I want to know what the Packers and Chiefs do. Do they move up into those mid-tier range to go get one of these top 4 receivers? That's what I see. And that's my biggest question. Because we see it all the time. Someone coming up, you know what I mean? Coming up to grab one of these star receivers. And then what happens is you get a tackle that drops, you get a defensive end drops, and you get a surprise.
I feel
You know
like
what I mean?
I feel like the most interesting team in this entire group right here is the New Orleans Saints, because they have those 2 picks. I believe the Eagles too, but I feel like the Eagles are looking maybe add picks for the future. I feel like the Saints are in that mode where they are a couple pieces away from competing in that NFC South and maybe competing in the NFC, and a wide open NFC with the exception of the Rams and Bucks. It's a wide open NFC. This is where, like, I expect a lot of movement to happen, whether it's a receiver, whether it's quarterback play, maybe offensive line. This is where I expect a lot of trades to happen, or as we like to call it, straight up madness in the NFL draft. But we will be back at the end of the week to talk some baseball, recapping the first week of the MLB, our surprises so far. We'll talk about the New York Yankees, and also me and Ted will be previewing and making our predictions for the 2022 NBA playoffs. Can't wait. Looks like a very intriguing playoffs about to happen. And then starts tonight. The play-ins tonight. The Nets, the villains of the NBA, will get a chance to, shut a lot of people up, and we'll see what happens. I'm expecting a great NBA playoffs. It should be a lot of fun. We'll be back next week also to talk about this, but picks 18 to 25, and then we'll finish up next week the following week, draft week. We're 2 weeks away, coming up on 16 days of the NFL draft. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, share, or follow at Keys to the City, or check out Clovercrest Media for many more podcasts. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we're unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.